which actually was rather late in being established. Extraordinary, took a very long time to do that. But here we see these 9 gentlemen and this lady, and we don't have to bother much about this, because this report, there's no mention of Building-7. It's just mentioned with one single word in the official account of the event. So we proceed to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which finally got the enterprise of clearing up and describing, explaining the physical events of World Trade Center. And they got funding in August 2002. The first thing they did was to take Building-7 out of the investigation, or rather to make a separate investigation of Building-7 and concentrate on the 2 towers. They say, but we know that they actually started working on Building-7 right on. The final report on the towers came out in September 2005, and I could entertain you for hours about that, but I'm not going to do that. While the report on Building-7 was postponed repeatedly, every half year they say, well, the report on 7 will come in about half a year. And it didn't, until the fall of 2008. And this is what we have to relate to. This is the official account of what happened to Building-7. Came in October 2008. The front page looks like this. And I'll spend the rest of the first part of my presentation here to present to you the NIST mechanism for the collapse of Building-7. I hope I'll be fair. Now, the 2 main conclusions in NIST report was, first, that the structural damage of Building-7 was minor and not decisive. This is important because over the years in between, there's been much speculation about how much damage happened to Building-7 from the collapse of the North Tower. And many people believe that it was completely damaged very strongly. So that was the reason why it collapsed. But NIST concludes quite correctly that the damage was minor and not decisive for the collapse itself. NIST concludes that Building-7 collapsed primarily due to conventional office fires. And this is a daring proposition, for that simple reason that it has never happened before or after in history that a steel frame high-rise has collapsed due to fire. And there's been many fires. Let me just rush you through a few of them. 1991, Meridian Place in Philadelphia, raged for 18 hours. The building remained standing. 1988, the very famous fire in Los Angeles. I have read the summary of the fire report myself, and I can bring you this quote: there was no damage to the main structural members, and the building remained there. More recently, from the Persian Gulf here, Qatar, 2006, there's a high-rise in flames, and it is actually burning here, ladies and gentlemen. Venezuela, Caracas, 2004, it burned for more than 17 hours over 26 stories. The building remains standing. So NIST has a difficult problem here, challenge here. Because so we have to look at the fires, actually, because there were fires in Building-7. Let's take a look at that. And I'm quoting the NIST report, which says that the collapse of WTC-1, which is the North Tower, ignited fires on at least 10 floors and burned out of control on floors 7, 8, 9, and 11, 12, 13. I have put this mark after out of control because the reason why they burned out of control was that nobody controlled it. There was no attempt to extinguish any of the fires. But please notice that here we have 10 reported fires. And the report also said that by 1 p.m. there was no visual evidence that the small early fires on 19, 22, 29, and 30 were still burning. So 4 out of the 10 fires were gone out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we only have to bother about fires on 6 floors. Let's take a look at these. I'm still quoting the NIST report. You don't have to remember these numbers. But here they are, nevertheless, just to give them an impression that it has actually been very accurately reported. And NIST has written a log on every window in the building, actually, and guessed on the temperature behind it. Very thoroughly. The chapter is 112 pages. They really took an effort to do that. And so here's the result. They'll say on the 7th floor, it started burning observation at 2 o'clock to 3:15, and 4:15 to about 5 minutes later, etc. Now, here I can tell you what actually the assisted floor will be, the 12th floor here, where the fire starts 8 minutes past 2 to 2:30, and then bursts are observed throughout the afternoon until the collapse of 5:20 p.m. Now please notice that on each of these floors there's no observation of fires before 2 o'clock, which means that there was no fire observed in the building at all between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And why the fire started again, nobody knows. Huh? You know?
You can guess.
You can guess, yeah. And so let us take a look at these fires. Now the first picture I'm going to show you is actually one of the early fires. And because this is the only evidence we have for a fire on the south side of the building. This is the southwest corner, and these numbers are referring to the floors. So this is the 28th floor, the 29th, the 30th, the 31st floor. And we can see obviously that there's something going on here. There has been a fire here on the 29th floor. There's still something happening in here, but this here is gone out. Now, but this fire, as I told you, is one of those who actually went out afterwards, right afterwards, because an office fire only lasts for about 20 minutes. Then there's nothing left to burn, and either the fire is moving on to the next office or it dies out. Now, what's more actually interesting is what happened in the afternoon. Now we are back on the opposite side of the building. This is the eastern facade here. This is a close-up of the same fire. We are on the 11th, 12th floor. This is the southeast corner here. And the small numbers are referring to the perimeter columns behind, which very conveniently provide us with a coordinate system. So if you're referring to which floor you are on, or which small column is in the neighborhood, you know exactly where in the building you are. And so this is about 2:30 in the afternoon. This is the front face, close to 3. And actually I can tell you the most important thing in this report is what's happening here on the 12th floor. There's a little fire here. This is the 7th floor. Things are happening down here. A little later, the fire on the 12th floor is bigger. We are close to 3 p.m. And the 7th floor has spread a little bit to the west. About 15 minutes, we are still the north side here. The fire on the 12th floor has moved a little bit to the west, and so has the fire on the 7th floor. But this is about all. About an hour later, I'm back to the southeast corner, and we can see here that the fires I showed you before